Hello everyone, this is DA underscore Dumples, Dumples, whatever. This is probably be one of the first videos on my channel, I guess. There's some goofy ones up there already, but this is gonna be the first one that I actually put effort into and stuff. So this is a shuttle I've made in Kerbal Space Program. It's kind of based off of the space shuttle. I didn't look up the space shuttle's designs or any of that stuff to make sure it was actually faithful to the actual shuttle. I just kind of replicated what it looked like, and I had tried to use the aerospace airplane parts to make it look like the space shuttle, but I found that the body type that actually more resembled the space shuttle was just kind of weird, and I couldn't figure out a way to get it to work. As you can see, the shuttle on the back is not really, it doesn't really resemble the actual space shuttle at all, or the airplane part. Um, it resembles it in function, but not in aesthetic design or anything. The actual larger airplane parts actually do resemble it pretty well, and you can actually get a pretty similar sized ship, and it has all the shapes and proportions and stuff, but that was weird, and I couldn't get it to work very well with what I was doing with the rest of the design, so I chose to make it resemble the shuttle in terms of function rather than aesthetics, although, it is similar it's a plane with wings and stuff, yeah, so. The whole thing overall I do think does resemble the aesthetic of the shuttle, more or less, you got the main fuel tank, you got a shuttle on the side, and you got the solid rocket boosters on the side. Some disparities are that this tank does actually have a mainsail engine on it, which I haven't done that much research, to be honest. I've just seen lots and lots of pictures of it. I feel bad. I love this shuttle, but I don't know all of its details. But the shuttle does not have, as far as I can remember, an engine on the actual tank. It all mostly comes from the solid rocket boosters on the side and the shuttle's own engines. And this is actually just a fuel tank that pumps fuel into this thing in the actual real-world version of the space shuttle. But in mine, I put it here. This is actually a really tough. It wasn't really tough. It was a challenge for me to design because of two things. So if I put the center of thrust and the center of mass on, I can show you why. Because this is an asymmetrical spacecraft. And an asymmetrical spacecraft is tough because you have the forces being distributed unevenly. On a normal spacecraft where you have just a tower and everything's piled on top, everything is symmetrical and the center of mass is directly above the center of thrust. But as you can see, mine is ever so slightly to one side. And that is not ideal. What you want is the center of mass right above the center of thrust. Otherwise, what you get, and what I have, is a little bit of torque to one side. So what this ship wants to do is roll over towards the shuttle side. It wants to just slowly rotate. And that gets even worse because, as you can see, I have the fuel pumping from the large tank into the smaller one, into the shuttle, which means that as this thing gains altitude, the center of mass is actually migrating over to here, not because mass is flowing over here per se, but because mass is losing over here, and the average center of mass is actually moving over here, while the mainsail engine is still providing the same amount of thrust. The thrust stays exactly where it is, and the center of mass will migrate here, meaning that the torque from the engine will be magnified until I can no longer keep the shuttle under control, and you will see that. But as you can see, the ship is not facing the normal direction. Normally, it would be facing. I don't know. It wouldn't be facing towards the door. I can't remember what direction it would normally be facing, but as you can see, I have actually rotated the whole cockpit and everything to be facing that way. So when it does end up rolling over, in the way it will tend to, it will actually follow the ascension pattern that I would like it to. And yeah, in order to compensate for the earlier parts of the early torque and forces and rotational tendencies the ship will experience, I have added these new RCS thrusters, which have already been added to the game. Here on the control surfaces, the Werner engines. They're a lot like these, but as far as I can tell, they're just stronger. I didn't really look them up, I just wanted to use them. I'm pretty sure they're stronger from what I've heard. And they're kind of ghetto. I mean, uh, they're not the most legitimate like design feature to keep this thing upright. You know, ideally, this thing the way it would be distributed so that the tank would the ship would be able to maintain control without using external thrusters to be able to control its position. But I was not able to do that with the vanilla game as it is. The way the problem is solved in the actual shuttle is that the engines on the back of the shuttle are actually gimbaling and are actually at an angle, and since there's no mainsail right here, the center of thrust is actually much more closer to the shuttle, and the thrust is actually at an angle pointing right through the center of mass, and so that actually manages to make it much more controllable while in flight. But you know, I didn't do it that way, so I have this. And you know, this is actually a really solid solution. The downside is that you have to put this RCS tank on there, which is pretty big, but you know, it works really well. And yeah, the only other design flaw that I can see is that we have this wheel that is actually clipping into the main tank, which is no fun. And if you'll see in the launch video, I actually do have a problem with it when I separate the tanks. There's a little bit of glitchiness. Ideally, what I would do is just retract the wheels before I even launch. Yeah. And then you can see I have some RCS tanks right here just to help me maneuver the ship and rotate it and stuff while in flight. I have a bunch of extra RCS fuel by the end of this mission, so figured might as well use it. And that's about it. The solid rocket boosters I positioned, and it actually worked really well, surprisingly well actually, that if I put them exactly on the sides, you know, as you would normally on a rocket, it kept the center of mass roughly exactly where I wanted it to do. I could have used them and moved them over to one side a little bit more to move the center of mass more over the center of thrust, but what that would do is when they're actually lost, that would actually increase the amount. That would actually, when I drop the boosters, the center of mass would actually jump towards the shuttle and then make the problem even worse. So what I tried to do, I designed the ship for the center of mass to be here, so I just put the boosters on the side. And this actually does not move the center of mass. It either doesn't move it at all, or it moves it beyond my perception. It moves it beyond my detectable range. Maybe it moves it like a pixel or something. But basically, it actually does nothing. And so when I detach these solid rocket boosters, it does not affect the forces the shuttle will experience, because it does not affect the mass. I'm sure it does, but you know, negligibly. And that's about it. So you will see me again on the launch pad. Yeah. And welcome back to the launch pad. Here we go. This is all recorded in post-production. So we take off, and we are going up. As you can see, we have all 4 engines going, both solid rocket boosters, the mainsail, and the main shuttle engine. The fuel is being diverted into the space shuttle, as center of mass is slowly drifting towards the space shuttle. And you can see right now with the Vernier engines, the RCS engines at the top and the bottom are actually firing. You just can't see them. What you'll notice is as the mission progresses and as the center of mass tends more and more towards the shuttle, the amount of force, or the amount of leverage that the actual engines have on the center of mass will increase, and the Vernier engines will actually have to thrust harder and harder and harder to actually compensate. Of course, it's all taken care of by the SAS. Eventually, what you'll see here is a little bit after the separation of the solid rocket boosters. As you can see, the separatrons were not properly balanced, so they kind of flew away in a weird way. But that's no biggie. But as you'll see, is the Vernier thrusters get more and more visible, and eventually I actually have to switch over to some manual control to actually keep the rocket in place. As you can see, I leaned over a little bit. And now you can really start to see the Vernier engines, if you look closely enough, really starting to put all of their effort into it. If you notice, when they launched the launch pad, the ship was actually rotated 90 degrees to face east. So because as you can see, the ship's natural tendency is to roll over. As you can see now, I've the Vernier engines are actually starting to fire, and I'm actually using manual control right now, because the Vernier, and here you can see me slowly starting to lose control, and I stop the engine with a little bit of fuel left because I can no longer control it. Roll over and detach the mainsail engine, although there's a little bit of glitch with clipping. I forgot to put back the gear, so you'll see a little bit of a hiccup coming up. There you go. Separate times fire, and the ship gets a little bit of roll because the wheel was actually clipping into the fuel tank, and the game did not know what to do. But yes, what I was saying is that the ship was actually rotated 90 degrees to begin with, so that its natural tendency to lean over did actually coincide with the direction of the orbit we were running. So as you can see, I'm burning forward at a pretty steep angle, almost parallel to the surface of the planet, trying to just get as much velocity as I can. We're pretty high up into the atmosphere right now, so I'm not too worried about drag. The apoapsis is increasing. Yeah, we're at 42,000 feet. Yeah, and so this bit takes a little bit, but it's not that long. As you can see, the apoapsis is slowly rising. We're getting up to 50, 60. The target is like 1 or 200. Can't actually remember how far I went in this take. But yeah, this is the nice relaxing part. It was actually pretty tough keeping the shuttle under control on the way out. I think I stopped at 100,000 feet. Here we go. Oh, something like that, 100,000. So now, I'm not actually the correct altitude to speed up with time acceleration, but once I get above 70,000 feet, the game will allow me to. As you can see, I'm very happy with my success at getting into orbit. The toughest part is now gone, and the easy part, quote-unquote easy part, is not beginning. Well, this is technically the easiest part, getting into orbit, but as you can see, I've cut to the orbital insertion, where we wait for apogee to come by, so we can burn prograde and finally insert ourselves into orbit. The hard part that's coming up now is the big hype of the mission. This is my first attempt actually at landing precisely on Kerbin. Of course, I have a shuttle. What do you do with a shuttle? You land it on the runway back at KSC. So as you can see, I've gotten ourselves into orbit. This part was actually really tough to film. It took quite a while figuring to actually get it done. As you can see, I am rotating the ship to get in to do some victory maneuvers. We're now in orbit, and we're ready to conduct some science. And then I open the docking port to just show how much it looks like the actual space shuttle. Oh yes, it looks exactly like it. How majestic. And look at that little guy in there. He's all smiling and happy. It's wonderful. And then the fun's over, and we retract things. And now it's time for landing. So this was my first attempt. I did autosave. Actually, I did autosave. Only for the sake of this is my first time doing it. I try not to autosave in my missions, but this one was just very complicated, and I figured it was worth it. So this time I actually do miss. I didn't slow down myself enough, and what you'll see here is me overshooting the target. I come in really fast. Try to do everything I can to slow down. I'm trying to do some side-to-side things, but I'm just going too fast. My ailerons can't do anything to stop me, so I end up overshooting, and then I just restart. So here we are again in orbit. I've finally figured it out. I can't remember exactly where I figured out you need to get your orbit down to. I think it's right a little bit past the KSC. There's like a little peninsula sticking out of one of the continents that I managed to get it down to. But yeah, I come in, I hit the body of the atmosphere right before these mountains over here. The KSC is right over the top of them. As you can see, I'm coming in really fast. I don't think this is possible in real life. I think this is actually quite impossible. But as you can see, I slow down. Just the atmosphere slows me down in time. And now begins a very slow. This is all sped up. I don't know how fast, but this is all very sped up because this is actually a very slow process. But yeah, let's skip ahead a little bit now. Okay, now here we are, about to come in for landing. As you can see, I'm trying to line myself up with the runway. Just turning to the side, and here I am about to just lock in on that. And that was the game. Sorry, that was myself auto-saving just in case. I actually did manage to succeed, so it's all good. And I deployed the landing gear, and we come in for a landing. Look, coming a little bit steep because I don't want to use most of the runway as possible. It's a little bit risky, but it turns out all right in the end. So here we go, and touchdown! Woohoo! Magnificent. And just activate the brakes, stop the vehicle, do a little victory camera shake, get this guy out of here, and successfully colonize this brand new world with which we've discovered. Yes, the victory flag has been planted. Let's just hope the plane doesn't run away, as it is currently. Yes, very exciting. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. If you want to say anything, tell me, give me feedback, give me some ideas and inspirations for more things that you would like me to do, please leave a comment or something. If you want to see more things, maybe click the subscribe button, I don't know. That would be really nice. That's a number I'd like to see get bigger. Thank you for watching. This was a lot of fun to make, and thank you for sticking with it. Thank you for watching.